welcome you all, our audience, to the Dharma Talk series, Youth Turning Toward the Buddha. Today, we are truly delighted to welcome the presence of our deeply respected master, Venerable Thich Dao Thinh, abbot of Kai Nguyen Pagoda. Dear Master, for this episode of our series, we received a question from a student at the Hanoi University of Science and Technology, and the question is as follows. Dear Master, I am a lay Buddhist student who often participates in Dharma practice activities and helps with Pagoda's work. However, I've recently noticed that I have a certain habit energy, which is a tendency to see other people's faults and to let that into my own mind. Oftentimes, I am aware of this, but I do not yet know how to transform or change this habit. I sincerely ask for your compassionate guidance. Dear Master, from this question, I realize that this is a very common habit, and it can cause discord and conflict in our lives. Could you please take some time to help us understand more deeply?
Regarding the question from the anonymous young student that we've just heard, from the MC, on behalf of the students, specifically this anonymous student mentioned earlier, we know that on the path of cultivation, orienting our minds toward wholesomeness, there are many obstacles, hindrances on our cultivation path, or on the path toward wholesomeness. That is why, in the past, when I was studying and listening to the most venerable monks, the respected masters and predecessors, they would often teach that if we haven't truly practiced, we do not yet recognize that we ourselves have many imperfections, faults, unwholesome traits in life. It's like someone wearing a dark-colored shirt, one that is black, gray, or brown. It's very difficult to notice any stains on it, unlike when we wear a white shirt. When we have not yet begun our practice, it is as if we are wearing a dark-colored shirt. But when we do practice, it is as if we are wearing a white shirt, a light-colored one, just a little stain, and we can immediately notice it. So the matter the student brought up is that he often goes to the pagoda to do volunteer work, assist the venerable monks with Dharma affairs. At the same time, he mentioned that recently, his unwholesome state of mind often arises. It is the tendency to look at the faults of others, to grasp onto other people's mistakes. Sometimes he knows it, yet he cannot transform it on his own. He cannot change it or let it go. Thus, he asks what should be done. Dear all the young people, it's not just for people of your age, but also for older Buddhist practitioners, even those who have practiced on the Buddhist path for many years. Many still frequently encounter such hindrances. Therefore, when the Buddha was still in this world, he already foresaw that this issue would arise and arise frequently among later generation learners like us. That is why he taught that a true practitioner looks only at one's own faults, not at the faults of others. Why did the Buddha teach us to look only at our own fault and not at the faults of others? It is because in life, the Buddha wants us to lay down the burdens, the gossip and judgment, the sense of self, the right or wrong of this life, of all beings in this world. Only then can we attain enlightenment and liberation. Therefore, the Buddha told us that if If we live in this world, while always clinging to our views, always looking at the mistakes and faults of other people, then naturally our minds will give rise to countless afflictions, countless sufferings, and countless obstacles obstruct our peaceful path to enlightenment and liberation. Thus, on the path of cultivation, this matter of these karmic obstacles that come to us, as I said at the beginning, when we have not yet begun to practice, we do not see that. The act of looking at the faults of others, or this matter, is important. It is just a very normal thing. It's like we are the ones wearing dark-colored clothes. Because where would we find the time to think about practice, to think about liberation, to think about enlightenment? All day long, we are entangled in the struggle for food, clothing, and money. We strive to study well while young, to earn a lot of money after graduation, and to become a famous person, standing before the crowds, before everyone, whether among many people or few. We feel we must be the most prominent, the most excellent one among them, and so on. Those are the actions, the thoughts, and the deeds of a person who has not yet begun their cultivation. To them, all of this is purely normal, because in life, they believe there must be advancement, desires, and goals to strive for, to achieve those desires and goals. They must naturally scheme and strategize, using numerous methods, even if it means going to any cost, even if it means hurting their loved ones, or even if it means gambling their own life and body. They feel they must do whatever it takes. This is very normal in the secular world, as that's the ideal of a worldly life. We cannot simply take the Dharma to say that such a path is wrong. That is why I spoke of the person who has not yet begun to practice. It is as if they are wearing dark-colored clothes. That way of life is ordinary in the secular world. In life, to survive, you must struggle and be victorious. Only then will you have the space to exist. Only then can you survive. It is just like going out onto the battlefield. If you wish to defeat the enemy and return triumphant, you must take up guns, swords, and spears to slay the foe. Only then can you achieve victory. But if you are soft, weak, and fearful, you will become nothing but prey, a savory morsel for the enemy on the battlefield. Therefore, in a worldly way, for them to achieve a specific goal, which is even considered a beautiful and good thing, they still must struggle for it. However, concerning the Dharma, the Buddha taught that for a Buddhist practitioner, if we wish to seek the path of liberation, to attain enlightenment, to be truly liberated, then it means we must go against the current of the secular world, the current of ordinary life, the conventional flow of worldly thoughts and actions. It means going completely against the current of the world. Therefore, we come to see that when we begin to study the Buddhist doctrine, Draw near to the three jewels, stay close to the Sangha, and learn the teachings of the Buddha. Only then do we realize from all those teachings of the Buddha in the sutras, the Vinaya, and the Abhidharma, and so on, that in life, if we want liberation, if we wish to enlightenment, we must go against everything that the world has taught before. The world seeks and craves to reach a specific destination, and that destination is often wealth, possessions, status, fame, and praise, etc. The Buddha taught that all these things only bring a temporary benefit for as long as we are alive. When this life is no more, all of it becomes nothingness, a mere zero. Therefore, the Buddha taught that only the realm of nirvana, true liberation and bliss, achieved through letting go, non-self and altruism, can bring about the genuine inner serenity and freedom that manifests in our daily lives. That is why when we study and understand the Buddha's teachings, and through our practice have accumulated some merit and good fortune, we then realize that all the things we previously thought were right, necessary, and had to be achieved at all cost for us to be happy and prosperous, we now see that the Buddha teaches many things that go against the worldly tendencies of greed, anger, and ignorance. They are letting go, loving kindness, non-self altruism, and so on. We begin to see the difference between the two extremes. To put it simply, it's like what science calls yin and yang, or like darkness and light. We come to realize that previously we didn't pay attention. It's because we were wearing a gray shirt, so we couldn't see the stains on our shirt when the dust was still just a little. But once we have practiced for a while, in Buddhist terms, we could say we have attained small awakenings in our daily lives. We then begin to see that doing this is wrong, that action is not acceptable. If I continue this way, I will not achieve liberation, and so on. Stemming from these things, we begin to have a slight awakening and recognize the distinction between the Dharma and worldly phenomena. Within our alaya vijnana, a discriminating mind is born. However, if we are not skillful, if we cannot master our emotions and the mind's perceptions, we will be swept away. The act of perceiving, seeing, hearing, or knowing, the eyes see, the ears hear, consciousness knows it. Generally, we fail to master it and allow it to afflict us. It is called an obstacle to our Bodhi mind. The act of seeing, hearing, and knowing becomes a hindrance to our Bodhi mind. However, if we can truly advance just one more small step, a little bit more, as the Buddha taught, to see, but be able to let go of what is seen, to hear, but be able to let go of what is heard, to think, but be able to let go of whatever is unwholesome for oneself in this life. The Buddha teaches us about letting go, which means putting the burden down. Then we will naturally attain peace and bliss. This relates to the question from a young person who said that when he goes to the pagoda to help with Dharma's affair, He recently see the faults of others, become attached to them, and find it hard to let go. That is why I believe that if we cannot let go, we will inevitably be affected to some degree. Perhaps we begin to lose faith in the three jewels, lose trust in the Sangha, and lose confidence in lay practitioners, our fellow Dharma brothers and sisters, and even in the good men and believing women who come to the pagoda to pay homage and perform Dharma deeds. You should remember that. People often say no one is perfect, unless one is a Buddha, a Bodhisattva, a holy monk, or an Arhat. No one in this life is without fault. I repeat, unless one is a Buddha, a Bodhisattva, a holy monk, no one in this life is without fault. Not even myself. I have left home, entered the way for 30 years now. Looking back on my path of cultivation, it is still filled with countless mistakes and shortcomings that I must constantly strive to change, so that each day I may become better and more complete, so that I can be a small spiritual support for the monks, nuns, and lay practitioners in this life. Even myself is not free of mistakes. Therefore, if we come to the pagoda to volunteer or pay the homage to the Buddha, or to attend a retreat, but we only focus on the matter of scrutinizing the monks and nuns there, on how they speak and act, assessing whether they act like true practitioner or not, whether they possess great wisdom, whether they are the masters of sufficient virtue and conduct, just so we can decide whether to get close to and follow them when we set out from home. And go to the pagoda with such a mindset, then naturally, during that pagoda visit, our attention will be fixed solely on every gesture and every word of the monks and nuns there, and it is certain that within a few hours, among all gestures, words, and movements of those monks and nuns, we will surely find some fault, and then we will feel very sad, perhaps even very disappointed. We might even start to think that coming to the pagoda like this, or practicing that way, brings no benefit. We might lose our Bodhi mind and abandon the path. Even after having taken refuge in the three jewels, we might still leave the path, or even convert to another religion. Therefore, the mindset we bring to the pagoda is crucial. I believe if we start with the intention of coming to the pagoda to seek the path, to help with the pagoda's work, to cultivate some wholesome karmic connections and blessings, and then dedicate that merit to our parents and ancestors in this life and in past lives, that they would have peace, health, longevity, and happiness, and that those in the past may soon be reborn in the Pure Land or in heavenly realm, and so on. If we cultivate that mindset when we go to the pagoda, and if we think everyone else is a good person, only we ourselves are not yet completely good, then today we come to the pagoda to accumulate virtues and perform wholesome deeds in order to become a better person. In that case, naturally, during that day at the pagoda, whether it's for volunteering or attending a retreat, we will only look at the good and positive sides of others to learn from. And even if a thought arises in which we see the mistakes and faults of another person, we just let it go. And that too becomes a lesson for us, teaching us not to walk down the same path. We should only follow the light, not the darkness. only follow what is right, not what is wrong. Instead, we should only look into our own mind, our own words, and our own actions so that we may correct our own mistakes. We come to the pagoda to cultivate, to practice. In Buddhism, to practice means to correct and change our unwholesome habit energy from speech, gestures, and actions, and even the thoughts that have just arisen in our mind. This is true practice. It means to correct and to transform those negative habits from evil to good, from bad to wholesome, even to turn an enemy into a friend. As people often say, therefore, if by chance, when we are at the pagoda, we happen to see a mistake, a fault, or wrongdoing by the venerables, or in any lay practitioner or fellow friend, when we are at the pagoda, let us think of a phrase that I myself often reflect on. No one is perfect. I myself am not yet a perfect person. Let's just focus on becoming a good person first. And even when I am a good person, I should not be quick to judge others, because in this life, there are those who practice in secret. In the Buddhist community, there are many practitioners who practice sincerely, but conceal their virtuous conduct and outwardly appear to behave poorly. For example, the holy Arhat I mentioned with the previous question is the Venerable Master Jigong. He was, in fact, a reincarnated Arhat, the dragon-subduing Arhat. However, he manifested in this world to teach sentient beings. He pretended to be mad and foolish, eating meat and drinking wine, doing unusual things an ordinary person could never understand. But in reality, he concealed all of his noble virtues to manifest the darker aspects of society to save beings. Therefore, as ordinary beings, we can never fully comprehend the external manifestations and actions of the holy monastics and great patriarchs. There are times when our masters may shout at us, scold us, or reprimand us, but it's not out of ill will or anger, not to hit, or to insult, nor to curse, or abandon us, but rather the masters are using skillful means to teach, correct, and guide us. Just as the elders often said in the past, spare the rod, spoil the child. Therefore, in all matters, the most important thing is that we must have the right view. As the Venerable Master Chin Kung said when he was alive, in this life, do not focus on the faults of others. Instead, always examine your faults to transform and correct them, especially if you still harbor many wrongdoings, because time is running out. Even if we are just 18 or 20, who knows when death will come? Since it only takes a single breath for life to end, just a very short time. Or, as the Venerable Master said, even if we live to be 100, the span from 18 to 100 is still like a fleeting dream. It's not long at all. Therefore, the Venerable Master teaches us that we should only look at our faults. Do not look at the faults of others, only to give rise to afflictions and resentment, creating negative karma for oneself. That leads us to fall into the 3 lower realms. Through this, I also hope that you, the student, as well as many other lay practitioners, and young people, when we come to the pagoda to do volunteer work, study the Buddha's teachings, we should have a mind with right view, an attitude of humility and modesty in order to truly learn the Dharma. If we have a humble mind to learn, we will only see ourselves as the one who is at fault, the one with shortcomings, the one who is ignorant and lacking in merit. In this way, we can make progress on the path. But if we see ourselves as talented and superior, as wise and extraordinary, we will only burn away our merit. We are bound to fail in seeking the Buddha's teachings for liberation. That is certain. Therefore, I genuinely hope that the person who sent this question to the media channel through our program's MC, who read it to venerable monks, I hope that you will practice more from now on. This could involve sitting in meditation, chanting sutras, or reciting the Buddha's name, depending on the Dharma activities that draw you in. We must practice, for only then can we eradicate the root of greed, anger, and ignorance, the root of stubborn attachment, or the wrong views, extreme views, attachment to mere views, and attachment to rules and rituals, as the Buddha taught in the sutras. But if we only go to the pagoda to do volunteer work, like cleaning, cooking, sweeping, and so on, that is also a form of practice, but it is one that only stops at the level of cultivating blessings. Once we gain a little blessing, it is very easy for us to fall into the path of arrogance and conceit, looking down on others. In that way, we will degenerate. And once degenerated, the consequences are even more severe and profound. In this life, one may attain a human body, but in the next life, one might not even be reborn as a human. Or, if one is, they may be blind, crippled, sickly, and lacking in blessing, which is even more miserable. Thus, the practice of humility and modesty in learning the Dharma, for all of us, including monks, as well as the young people and lay practitioners who come to the pagoda, this is an essential thing for all of us. So, in this life, let's always think that we are less fortunate. However, we have been born as human beings and have encountered the Buddha's teachings. We have not practiced much at all yet. We think like that to practice, to correct ourselves, to learn, to cultivate in this life. It is certain that we will reach the destination, which is liberation, enlightenment, just like the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. If we fail to do this and stubbornly insist that we are right, that we are talented and skillful, that we are the only good ones, and everyone else is flawed, even the masters we once respected, and so on, then gradually, the mind we bring to the pagoda is not a Buddha mind, but a Mara mind. When we bring a Mara mind to the pagoda, the more we study and practice, the further we stray from the Bodhi mind. We must only bring a Buddha mind to the pagoda. The Buddha's mind is considered to embody humility, a sincere heart that seeks the path. It looks only at our faults, not the faults of others. This is to bring a Buddha mind to the pagoda. We will surely succeed on the Buddhist path. I hope that this student, as well as lay practitioners and young people, will reflect on and apply the Buddha's teachings in their lives, finding a way to achieve the ultimate aspiration for the path in a perfectly harmonious and complete manner within this human life. Amitaha Buddha.
Dear Master, through your teachings, I have also drawn precious lessons to keep for myself, and I firmly believe that all our Buddhist practitioners who listen to today's Dharma talk have also gained valuable lessons from your teachings. Thank you for your teachings. We are immensely grateful for your meritorious virtue, for generously gifting us your time to share with us these incredibly precious teachings. Dear our audience, Dharma Talk, Youth Turning Toward the Buddha, has come to an end. Goodbye and see you again.